Well, hi there. Welcome to Sew You're Stuck at Home, a series that the Craft Center is putting out on some sewing projects that you might want to do while you're stuck at home during the coronavirus stay-at-home orders. Today, we're going to take a look at two different designs of face masks, and we're going to make two different designs. The first one we're going to do is this face mask that has string ties on it, and you'll wear it and tie it around your head so. The other one we'll make is one that uses elastic that you can put around your ears and tuck the mask under your chin and pull it up over your nose. Elastic, it was getting hard to come by because everybody started making out masks with elastic. So I've done the string tie design as well. If you can't find elastic, you can make one with just the fabric you have. So there's lots of different patterns out there online right now, and I found these online. And there's also lots of different materials you can make your masks out of. There's also a lot of information online from various different sources on what are the best fabrics to use. General consensus is any mask you can wear is better than none, but some fabrics and materials are better than others. I'd say use what you have on hand. It's a great way to use up your scrap fabric. A nice tight cotton is a good material to use. It'll be about, I've read, as much as 40 to 50% filtration capabilities for that material. A good quilting cotton is a little tighter weave. That would be good too. Also, t-shirt material is supposed to be about comparable to that. So another material that's highly recommended, and I haven't tried it yet, is vacuum cleaner bags. And most of your commercial masks that you can use, that the medical profession uses, are N95 masks. They have a 95% filtration capability. Vacuum cleaner bags can be as high as 90 or 91%. That makes them a little harder to breathe through. But if you have those and want to give them a try, certainly do. I've also heard talk about coffee filters and interfacing material, but I've read different reports on how effective those materials can be. So right now, because this is probably the most readily available material, is just most people who sew have a lot of scrap cotton, and I think that's why I chose this, because we have a lot of scrap cotton material here at the Craft Center that's been donated over the years. So we have plenty of that to start with. So today we're going to make the string tie masks, and we're going to start out with an 8 by 14 piece of fabric. So cut an 8 by 14 piece of fabric, fold it right sides together, and then we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam where the edges join here. Just on the one side, we're going to make a tube out of this. I'm going to come over to the machine. Seam along the short side of the folded fabric. Okay, now we have a tube that we're going to fold inside out, and that's going to become the basis for our mask. The next thing we're going to do is fold the mask into 3 pleats. This is either end, and this is 1, 2, 3 pleats. So get some pins. So I like to do the middle one first. And you're going to fold it about a 1/2 inch, like that, and fold it over, and that's going to give you a 1 inch pleat, 1/2 inch on each side. And pin that in place. Then fold another one at the top. Pin that in place, and so forth. And then down. And there we go. It's all ready to go. Now we're going to take and we're going to go to the sewing machine. We're going to sew a 1/4-inch seam on either side to secure the pleats. Now I like to start a little bit into the fabric and then do a little back stitch with my machine to secure the stitches. Be sure to take out your pins as you're sewing before you get to the needle so that you don't hit them with your needle and bend it or break it. Stitch at the end. And then we'll do the other side, same way. Okay, and now we're going to trim the edges. I'm going to cut this area right here, cut it down to where it's about 1/8 of an inch from the stitching to the edge, because we're going to have to put the tie on like this, and it's got to wrap over the edge of the fabric. Okay, so we're going to need to trim that fabric down so there's enough room for that to happen. So be sure to do it on both sides. Okay, so now we have our trimmed piece of fabric, our trimmed mask ready to go. And now we're going to go over and we're going to prepare the ties. So for the ties, you're going to want to cut 2 pieces of fabric that are 1.5 inches wide by 34 inches long. And that's going to become our tie when it's all folded up and sewn together. So we're going to move over to the ironing board right now, and I'm going to show you how to press this out to make it work. So here we are at the ironing board now. What we're going to do is create 2 pieces that are folded and ironed out to make this 3/8 of an inch wide string tie that's going to go on your mask. We're going to start out with this 1.5 inch by 34 inch piece of fabric. I'm going to come down and I'm going to fold over each edge about 1/4 of an inch on the ends, and that's so that we don't have any frayed fabric at each end. We just want to fold it over to secure the ends and press that down. I'm going to do the same thing at the other end. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to fold each side into the middle. And then we'll fold the other and press it, and then we'll fold the other side into the middle so that the 2 sides are folded together like so, folded together like this. Then after they're pressed down, we will fold them over each other and press them together. Now that'll put an envelope around your fabric mask when you sew it. So you can do it by folding each side into the middle and pressing that whole side down and then doing the same thing with the other. Or you can, after you've done a few of these, you kind of get the hang of it, and you can then do it all at once by kind of folding them at the same time as you go and just bringing them both into the middle and coming down and pressing them together at the same time. Being careful not to get your fingers too close to the iron. And then once you've done that, then we can fold the edges over. And there you go. So now you make 2 of these. Okay, so now that we have our tie all pressed out, we're going to hold it up and fold it in half to find the center. Once we find the center, we're going to hold on to that. We're going to come down to the mask, and we're going to put the center right in the center of the side of the mask. The side here, after you've done your pleats, I forgot to mention, should be about 3 to 3.5 inches wide. So you can check if you've got enough fold in your pleats by measuring that and seeing that you have it about 3 to 3.5 inches wide. Then you're going to slip the mask edge in between the folded halves of the tie and fold it over. And I'm just going to take a couple of pins and secure that in place on either end. And then we'll stitch it. Now I'm not going to put the other tie on until I've stitched this one in place, because the straps will just get in the way when I'm stitching the first side. And back to the sewing machine. And I want to be sure that I stitch close enough to the edge of the fabric of the yellow tie that I capture all of the gray material in between the layers of yellow. So I maybe do it about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge right here, from this edge, about 1/8 of an inch that way. back stitch to secure the fabric. And then I'm going to start sewing, removing the pins. And we're just stitching the part that is in contact with the mask right now. We won't stitch the rest of it until after we've got both sides of these attached. Trim off the excess threads. And now we'll do the other side. Fold it down so you find the middle. Make sure the middle goes about right there, in the middle of the mask itself. And once again, back to the machine, and we will stitch this side in place in the same manner. About 1/8 of an inch seam. A little plug there. Alright, so now it's time to sew the rest of the seam along the whole edge of the tie. So fold it in half, and we're going to sew that 1/8 inch seam, just like we were doing on the mask. We're going to sew all the way down and through the mask a second time, and all the way out to the other end. Stitch directly over the stitching you already did on top of the mask, and continue right on down the other side. face mask ready to go.
So the next mask we're going to make is going to be the elastic band mask that you can hook over your ears, like that. So we're going to start out with 2 pieces of fabric, cut 6 inches by 9 inches. So I've got 2 pieces. I'm going to fold them right sides, put them right sides together. I'm going to start sewing, and I'm going to leave about a 2 to 3 inch pocket on one side of the long seams. And I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way around and back, and I'm going to leave an opening here so we can fold it inside out to make the mask. However, when I get down here, I'm going to stop about there. I'm going to open up the fabric like so, and I'm going to put in a piece of elastic. And I want the edge of the elastic to come out and be catty-corner to the corner of the fabric, right there at the end. Then we're going to stitch over the top of the elastic, turn and stitch all the way down the other side. When we get about half an inch away from the other corner, we're going to stop and pull back that fabric and reach in and pull this piece of elastic, the other end, out to the other corner, and then stitch over it. Go to the other side and do the same thing with the other piece of elastic. So inside it's going to look rather like that. And then when we fold it inside out, it's going to look like this. The elastic is about a 1/4 inch wide. There was some trouble finding elastic initially. I got some that was, I couldn't find any a 1/4 inch or an 1/8 inch. An 1/8 inch will work too. You could also use elastic cord, but not the ends before you sew them in the corners so they don't come loose as easily. But I did have a big wide piece of elastic, and I cut it in 1/4 inch strips, and that works too. And you can make one with the standard recommended 7 inches long, and then try it on. If it doesn't fit comfortably, if the straps are too tight around your ears or too loose around your ears, make an adjustment for what size you need or whatever other person you're making it for needs. I made one that fit me, and my husband, it was pulling his ears over. It was so tight. So I had to make one that was about 1.5 inches longer for him to be comfortable. And then for a child, you'd want to make it smaller. You will probably also want to adjust the size of the mask for a child to be a little smaller to something more like maybe 7.5 by 5 inches instead of 6 inches by 9 inches. Okay, so let's get started here. So like I said, I'm going to come down. I'll put a pin in so we can see, remind ourselves where to stop as we come back, because it's easy to get going and just be enjoying stitching along and realize pretty soon you've stitched right through where you were supposed to leave a pocket. And then you have to rip that all out, and that's no fun. And again, I back stitch here. Slow down, stop right about there. Pull back your fabric. Put your elastic in. Lift up. Come down catty corner. Place it in. Back stitch over it, and you want to start at about 1/4 inch in from the side to stitch down to the other side, to the other end of the fabric. And if you're off a little bit on your seam, it's not critical. So if it gets a little wider than 1/4 inch, the edges don't match up exactly, that's okay. It'll all be hidden on the inside anyway. So this one we're just going to sew all the way down. Oops, I need to come a little closer. And sew all the way down to the other side. And put our elastic in on this corner as well. So we're going to lay it in catty corner to the corner here, about a 45-degree angle. Fold the fabric back down over that corner and stitch all the way through the elastic. And then I'll have to back stitch a little bit and then flip it around. Make sure not to get the elastic caught anywhere in here. I can see my elastic is flipping up there a little bit. So I'm going to make sure I pull it out of the way until I get down where I really want to stitch it. Pull this piece over and into the corner like so. And now I'm just going to stitch down to where this pin is. We'll cut off all our loose threads, and then we'll fold this inside out. So we have the pocket now. Open up the little gap there, and inside out we go. Just push it right on through. Find the elastic, pull that out, that'll pull the corners out. Fold your little pocket edges in a little bit, so then we'll match up across. And now we're ready to put some little pleats in this to give it some give when you put it on. So it'll cover and spread out over your nose and mouth, but be a little snugger on the sides. So, close up. So we're just going to put a few little tucks going down the side on each side of the mask. They don't have to be quite as formal as the ones did on the mask with the string, with the ties, fabric ties, because that was needed to be a little flatter and more even so that we could get the ties sewn on properly. And we're going to go make sure it's the same, about the same on the other side, and that the folds are going in the same direction. Definitely want to make sure the folds are going in the same direction. Quarter-inch seam again. I like to start on the edge where there's the elastic, on the side edge. You can start anywhere you want. And move the pins as you go. pleats sometimes want to fold over the other direction when you're sewing, so make sure that they stay in position. You have to stop the sewing machine and put them back in place. That's what you have to do. And this time we're going to be sewing down and sewing up this pocket. So make sure the edges are folded in nice and neat. And then for security, make sure everything stays together nicely. We're going to go around and stitch one more time all the way around on top of the first stitching. Oops. And we are all done, except for trimming off the threads. Now, one thing you can do was when you're wearing your face mask, and if you take it on and take it off, like you go into a store and put it on and you take it off in the car, you want to make sure if you put it back on that you're putting on the side towards your face that was towards your face this first time. So you can take a magic marker or a Sharpie pen and make a little mark, a little dot on one corner of it, so you'll know that's the side that's for your inside your facing your face. Or you could put a different color fabric on one side and another on the other, so you always know which is the right side that's facing your mouth and which is the side that's facing the public. The other thing is nice about these is they're washable. So you can toss them in the washer or come home and hand wash them after you've worn them with good hot water and soap. And then you can put them in the dryer and reuse them. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed learning about how to make face masks today, and that you're practicing social distancing and staying at home when you don't have to go out. And when you do go out, wear your mask. Protect yourself and others.